Okay, I am so excited to share this particular fire with you today, but I need your help. I need you to be patient with me. I need a few minutes to set this up, and I do need you to watch all the way through. That's not a tactic for engagement. This one just really culminates. It all comes together at the end. So, what is this video about? Why am I doing it? And how are we going to handle it? This video, to put it briefly, is about love. I think the greatest thing in the universe. Now, I don't know if there's a higher being out there. I don't know if there's something supernatural, but I think love is enough. I don't think we have to go past that. I think we have the universe, and the coolest thing in the universe is love. Love is what I believe in, as cheesy as it sounds. And I don't mean to be woo here. I hope that you would know me enough if you've watched me for any amount of time to understand that otherwise I am incredibly, or at least strive to be, logical, that I think that rationality and reason and critical thinking are of the highest importance. But what I hope to show you today is that if there is one exception, it's love, and that exception might actually be an exception within itself that ends up leading more towards reason and rationality than it might seem. And if that sounds confusing, that's fine. I have 3 examples for you from movies, which are going to be fun. There will be spoilers. If you haven't seen these 3, please do, but we need to cover them. And specifically, I have 3 scenes I'm going to be sharing with you today. So for the agenda, I'm going to first cover these 3 scenes, and I'm going to give you some backstory and summary to kind of set up each scene. Then I'll play you the scene, we'll move on to the next one, and at the end of the 3, I want to make a larger point. So there's more to be said after each of them, but you're going to have to wait till the end. And then we'll see. There's a part 2 that I might save, or I might just add it on at the end of this, a typical Sharing Fire episode where we look at the philosophy and mythology and the science assigned to the concept of love. But it might be enough just to share these 3 wonderful scenes with you. We're going to be covering What Dreams May Come, then The Matrix Reloaded, then Interstellar. You've probably seen the last 2. I hope to get to introduce you guys to this first one. So let's start with that. This is a movie with Robin Williams, and he plays a husband and a father, and this husband and his wife Annie lose their 2 children when they're rather young. The wife has a true breakdown for this. She cannot handle this loss, and she almost resents her husband, Robin Williams' character, Chris or Christy, for his ability to continue on in life. Chris is able to pull her back from the madness via their love, but then eventually Chris dies as well, and he goes to heaven. And the entire concept of the movie with one's personal heaven, what happens there, how we reconnect with people we've lost before, it is not only amazingly interesting, it is one of the most beautiful movies that I have ever seen, like visually and metaphorically. So Chris is now figuring things out in heaven, but Annie, now having lost her children and her husband, the last thread of her sanity, eventually takes her life. The rules of this heaven-hell concept, which are extremely vague, this isn't tied to a particular religion, is that suicide is the true act of defiance of life, and therefore in your ultimate despair, you do descend down into hell as you have completely lost yourself. This is explained to Chris in his heaven, and he is told he can never see Annie again. But there's an exception. It's very, very rare, but Chris and Annie are true soulmates. They are connected in a way that even other people in love are not connected, and this extends to the afterlife. And so Chris can sense Annie, and he's driven to find her in hell to save her. I won't get into all the details about how this happens, and his journey through hell is incredible, but we're getting close to the scene I'm about to show you. Chris is being led by a guide, a mentor, who explains to him that when he finds Annie, he will only have a couple minutes to speak with her. If he stays too long in her reality, it will become his reality. Her reality is that she won't be able to recognize him. She is trapped in her despair. She is in her own home, but it is broken. She feels that it is her fault that her husband and her children have died. She's truly lost. And if Chris is there too long, he too will be lost. So he goes in and he tries everything he can to save her, to help her remember, to convince her that there's more, that you can come forward to the light, you can come with me. But nothing works, and he knows his time is almost up, where he is going to lose his mind essentially and join her in hell. So he goes back out, he tells his guide, "You were right, I pushed her right to the edge. I could feel the walls closing in. The guide expects that means they will go back to heaven together. And instead, Chris tells him, please tell my children they will understand I had to stay with their mother. And he goes back in, willing to sacrifice himself for love. And this is the scene I'm going to show you.
Where are we headed, babe? In 1 minute, I won't know you any better than you'll know me. But we'll be together. Where we belong. Good people end up in hell because they can't forgive themselves. I know I can't. But I can forgive you.
For killing my children. And my sweet husband.
Being so wonderful, a guy would choose hell over heaven just to hang around you.
All right, so that's example 1. And again, there's going to be a follow-up for each of these, so stay with me, but we're going to move into scene 2 here from The Matrix Reloaded. Now, I don't have time to give you the entire backstory of the first Matrix movie and everything that happens before this particular scene, but it is the architect scene where Neo finally meets the architect, the designer of the Matrix. At this point, Neo believes that he is the one that has been prophesied about, and there are such truth bombs. This is one of my favorite scenes in literally all of movie history. But here's the very condensed version, even though I would love to do like a 2-hour essay on this scene alone. The architect explains to Neo that this has all happened 5 times before. 5 times before, Neo has stood in this exact space, hearing this exact message about the truth of how everything works. That between the architect and the oracle, there is a balance going on. A balance that is rigged, that favors the machine world. They allow those who have woken up to the truth to grow to a certain level in the city of Zion. And the one works as a reset button, as a bug that must be debugged. And it happens at this threshold. But part of the anomaly within the Matrix that causes this to happen is choice. And so Neo, now for the 6th time, though he doesn't remember the first 5, has to make a choice that the architect offers. One door leads to the reset button, but it will at least save humanity. Humanity will start again. Neo will get to choose a certain amount of people to reignite the city of Zion, and so quite literally getting to save humanity. But at the cost of door number 2. Door number 2 is love. Specifically, it is his love for Trinity. Trinity is shown to be dying. The architect, in fact, says she will die. If Neo chooses this door, he is essentially sacrificing humanity. Now, I've covered a little bit more that is already in this scene, but still watch this play out.
However, the relevant issue is whether or not you are ready to accept the responsibility for the death of every human being in this world. It is interesting reading your reactions. Your 5 predecessors were, by design, based on a similar predication, a contingent affirmation that was meant to create a profound attachment to the rest of your species, facilitating the function of the One. While the others experienced this in a very general way, your experience is far more specific, vis-a-vis love.
Trinity.
Apropos, she entered the Matrix to save your life at the cost of her own.
No.
Which brings us at last to the moment of truth wherein the fundamental flaw is ultimately expressed and the anomaly revealed as both beginning and end. There are 2 doors. The door to your right leads to the source and the salvation of Zion. The door to your left leads back to the Matrix, to her and to the end of your species. As you adequately put, the problem is choice. But we already know what you are going to do, don't we? Already I can see the chain reaction, the chemical precursors that signal the onset of an emotion designed specifically to overwhelm logic and reason. An emotion that is already blinding you from the simple and obvious truth. She is going to die, and there is nothing you can do to stop it. Hope. It It is the quintessential human delusion, simultaneously the source of your greatest strength and your greatest weakness.
Okay, and I can't wait to explain the second part of this, but we're going to move straight in to our third and final clip here from the movie Interstellar. This is what got me thinking to put this all together in the first place. I recently watched it with my son. He is so into space, and I think it hit him so hard how many other elements were going on here. It's the first time he saw his father cry. I cannot not cry when watching this movie. The love expressed all the way throughout it is absolutely beautiful. So let me set this scene up for you. You have two main characters here. You have Dr. Brand, played by Anne Hathaway, and you have Cooper, played by Matthew McConaughey. They are on a mission in the Endurance to find a new planet that will sustain life because Earth's time is up. They have both already sacrificed so much, and they are at a very pivotal moment when they need to choose which planet to go check out. They had sent scientists to a handful of different planets that had the potential to support life, and there's a decision to be made here. One of the greatest scientists who is still sending a signal that he is alive and that this planet is good, come here, is option 1. Option 2 is another planet whose signal went dark long ago from the scientists there. And what you're about to see is a conversation between the three of them. There's a third gentleman who's part of it, and they're going to vote here on which planet they head towards, where they put their time, their energy, their resources. There's a logical option to go to the one that still has the ringing beacon, the one that has the data that suggests the end result they're looking for. But what you'll see is an argument for the second option. Oh, also, the name of the scientist that has the beacon still coming is Dr. Mann. The scientist that was on the planet that has no beacon still coming in is Edmonds.
We should vote. Well, if we're going to vote, there's something you should know. Brand, he has a right to know.
That has nothing to do with it.
What does? She's in love with Wolf Edmonds. Is that true?
Yes. And that makes me want to follow my heart. But maybe we've spent too long trying to figure all this out with theory.
You're a scientist, Brand.
So listen to me. When I say that love isn't something we invented, it's observable, powerful. It has to mean something.
Love has meaning, yes. Social utility, social bonding, child rearing.
We love people who have died. Where's the social utility in that?
None.
Maybe it means something more, something we can't yet understand. Maybe it's some evidence, some artifact of a higher dimension that we can't consciously perceive. I'm drawn across the universe to someone I haven't seen in a decade, who I know is probably dead. Love is the one thing we're capable of perceiving that transcends dimensions of time and space. Maybe we should trust that, even if we can't understand it yet.
How incredibly profound. That hit me like a semi-truck the first time that I heard it. This is what I mean when I say that love is enough. We don't even have to understand it. It may very well just be something completely grounded in our brain chemistry, or it may be something we can't yet understand. We don't understand gravity, and yet gravity is clearly a part of the natural world. When I say we don't understand gravity, obviously we can describe what gravity does and predict how it will behave, but we don't know what it is, or better, why it is. And that's okay. We don't have to fill those gaps. We don't have to create things to explain them. Can't we just appreciate them? This is what it is for me. It is a love for love. What would the human existence be like without it? And I know that I am in a position of privilege when speaking about love because I have the world's best wife and the two greatest kids that have ever been born. Sorry to everybody else. That's an objective fact in my life. But who or what would I be without them, without that love, the love that constrains and at the same time sets free? I don't know, and I wouldn't want to know, but it's caused an undeniable belief in me of something outside of logic, reason, or rationale. Now, again, these are movies, but I'm going to share with you kind of the follow-up to each of these three scenes. And yes, it's poetic, and yes, it may not be accurate, but the concept itself, I think, is so unique, gorgeous, and to be redundant, lovely. In all three of these scenes, we see love over logic. Chris can just go back to heaven. He can still be with his children. We see that you can do good in heaven. You can still help others. He has an entire eternity ahead of him. And it's not like his choice to stay with his wife will somehow still even give hope that she could be saved. He is sacrificing himself, even if it's just for a minute of potential comfort for her in hell, and so that they can be together, even in despair, torment, and confusion. This is not a logical choice. Neo giving up on the human species, the entirety of any potential hope that there ever could be, to defeat the machines and regain humanity, just to go to Trinity, who's in the process of dying, and with the stern warning from the architect that she is going to die. That is not a logical choice. We could almost judge him. It almost seems foolish. It is unwise. It is unfair. Love over logic. And then in the third one, again, so much tension is built up to this point in the movie about how pivotal these moments are when they choose what precious time they have. And there's a whole thing about the black hole and how that creates time differences because of the amount of gravity and all of these things. But they don't just get to check out all of these planets. This may very well be what determines, again, if the human race gets to continue or not. And knowing that, a scientist, Dr. Brand, in a movie based around math and logic and physics and reason, says maybe there's something more than that. And yeah, we can judge her like Cooper is judging her, that she's compromised, that her emotions have gotten in the way. But her utter belief in love and its power is stunning. And the cool thing for all three of these, and again, movie magic, sure, but I think it's still pointing us towards a important potential knowing, is that it actually works out in favor of love over logic in all three cases. It is only because Chris was willing to sacrifice himself in hell for Annie that extra minute of being with her and speaking to her and forgiving her is what helps her emerge from her despair. If you watch the movie, you'll see that's the very next scene. You watch it wash over his face. He gets lost. She gets found. And because of this act, since it is her hell she has created for herself and she is escaping it, she can take Chris with her. And the next scene is the two of them in heaven, in the home and place that they always dreamed of, meeting their children again, the four of them together, even the family pet, with eternity to go. And actually, that would have been a good ending, but they did something special right after that. I'm not going to spoil that for you, but it's the coolest concept. Go and watch that movie. If he had chosen logic to go back and be with just his family, they'd always be missing Annie. But love beats logic here, and it does so in The Matrix as well. It is Neo's single act to attempt to save Trinity instead of humanity that breaks the system's cycle. For 5 previous iterations, the one chose the logical choice as the architect predicted, but here's the first time that the one doesn't choose to go back to the source and reboot the system, thus saving humanity. Neo's refusal to follow this typical and what would be considered smarter, wiser, more reasonable path shatters the architect's equation. Spoilers again for how the trilogy ends. By choosing love over logic, he rejects the architect's design and becomes something unpredictable, a variable that the machine could not predict nor contain. Neo's choice here ends up, and this is through the third movie, giving us a true end to the war between humanity and the machine world. He no longer fights as merely a programmed anomaly. He is a self-determined being now who believes in connection and love. His love then for Trinity drives him to the machine city, where he sacrifices himself, a conscious choice rooted in ultimate compassion. The result is peace. Not a programmed reboot, and a truce is born from the one thing that the machines could never understand, love. Again, that takes a whole third movie to play out and to understand, but that's essentially a good summary of it. Had he chosen logic, everyone would be trapped in the same rigged game forever. But what happens in Interstellar? Well, because they both believe she's compromised, they choose to go to man's planet. Again, he's still alive, the data looks good, this is the logical choice. But when they arrive, they discover that his planet is a frozen wasteland. Man faked his data so that he could get rescued, driven by the fear of dying alone. To make a long story short here, Man ends up betraying Cooper, trying to kill him, and destroys their lander. The decision based on data and logic almost kills everyone. The only thing that ends up saving anything is love. Cooper's love for his daughter, which is a scene I'm not showing you. It's at the end of the movie. And the first time I watched it, I remember thinking, this is dumb. I didn't understand what was happening. The higher dimension of love and connection between two people that, like Bran says, transcends time and space, that allows Cooper to communicate with Murph, his daughter, back on Earth, even in a different time frame, to give her the answers needed to save the human species. In that way, we see that love is actually very logical. It's just not logic we could understand. Also, when the film ends, we see that Brand is alive on Edmund's planet, the one she wanted to go to all along. It turns out she was right. Her heart's choice, the illogical one, would have been the only one that could have saved humanity if it wasn't for now Cooper's love with his daughter. Love over logic. So I think we won't actually do that second part. I'll save it for another time when we look at examples in mythology that have pointed to this same kind of thing, when we understand what neuroscience actually has to say about love and how powerful it truly is, where we look at the psychology behind the relationships that we form, and we look at the philosophy of the abstract nature of love. If you want to see that, let me know and we'll make an immediate part 2. But to wrap up today's video, maybe love isn't the opposite of logic, even though these 3 movies set up for them to be so. I think only to make a greater point. Maybe love is what logic aspires to be. And I know we're talking very flimsy here. I can feel my inner critic saying, hold on. But I'm just going to let love lead the way for a minute. If there's one time to be unreasonable, it's with love. So give me this one video, because what is logic anyways, if not the search for patterns that hold the universe together? And what is love if not living proof of that connection? Every atom bonds. Every orbit depends on attraction. The cosmos itself is in a relationship. Yes, we're speaking metaphorically, but what's to say we're not all our own little universes, our own individual atom bonding with another? That's the expression of love. Love isn't defying the laws of nature, it's revealing them. In this way, Chris choosing to stay in hell wasn't madness. It was the realization that connection outserves or outlives consequence. Neo then saving Trinity wouldn't be illogical. It was the discovery that meaning means more than the obvious choice, than the math that's presented. And Brand choosing love over data wasn't weakness, it was intuition. In some ways, a more advanced form of reason. And again, I hate, truly, trust me, I do, how wooey this all sounds. I don't think that we should go around making every little decision in our life because it feels better. To heed the architect's warning, hope can be a killer. It's just the other side of fear. I am not advocating for ridiculousness or silliness, but it is on par with the conversations we have all the time. If you are on your deathbed, you look back over your life, what do you remember? What do you care about? What do you regret? Reason and logic don't seem to play such an important role anymore. Love, risk, chance, life are what we hear about so often. So again, you can't live every moment under these conditions. You can't make every decision based off of them. But if you can understand it, if you can truly grasp the gravity, the true weight of love and what it can do, what it is, what purpose, even if it's purpose we assigned to it, as opposed to just existing in and of itself, I think you can have a better life, at least a more meaningful one. And they can work together, by the way. Again, these are not opposites. Logic builds systems. Love gives them purpose. Is that not true? Logic can show us how to live. Again, pay attention to that. But love can give us a why. Love doesn't have to break the rule. What if love is the rule? This channel's name is Sharing Fire, ideas that illuminate truth or ignite curiosity. If there is one fire that I would want to share with everybody, it is the importance and the impact of love. Our Blaze tier gets a special call out at the end of each video, so a very sincere thank you to D. Cox, Dark Side of Delight Productions, James Geider, and Laurie. Also, our Flame tier is up to 5 people. Your support here means so much. All other supporters are Ember tier and are listed in the description of each video. Truly, thank you to each and every one of you.